check it.
Good evening. We'll call this meeting to order for the September 14th, 2023 Apple Valley City Council meeting. Welcome everyone this evening. If you would like to address the council as your item is called, please come forward and state your name and address the council. With that, the first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask everyone to rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. And Tom, I don't believe we have any changes, do we?
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. No changes to tonight's agenda are recommended.
Great, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion from Councilmember Goodwin and a second from Councilmember Grendall. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. The next item is the audience participation portion of the meeting. This is for items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak at this time? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. These items are considered routine and will be enacted with a single motion unless a council member or a citizen requests to pull an item. Council members, are there any items you'd like to pull? Seeing none, citizens, any items to pull from the agenda? All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Melander and a second from Councilmember Bergman. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent items are approved. The first item on our regular agenda is item 5A, and that is our proposed 2024 city budget and property tax levy. And here with his riveting, nail-biting presentation is Ron Hedberg.
I saw him yawning out there a second ago.
Yeah. 10 slides. 10 slides, I hope.
Some of us find this stuff more fun than others. So,
The other one, Tim.
Oh,
yeah, Tim's trying to move us right to the end, it looks like.
Oh, boy.
He never uses them all.
There are plenty in there if we want to explore things further. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As the mayor mentioned, this evening, we are here to consider adopting a preliminary budget and property tax levy for 2024. What this does is it sets the maximum property tax levy for the coming year. It can be lowered between now and December, but it cannot be increased. One of the other actions at the end is a motion to set the date for what used to be called the Truth and Taxation hearing. It's now a public invitation to the public to come in and discuss the budget and levy where the public is invited to attend. And we're recommending December 14th as which is a regularly scheduled city council meeting for that meeting. There are some updates since the August informal. I did distribute those last Wednesday. We did receive updated fiscal disparity numbers, amounts, distribution amounts, which does impact the spread levy and the tax rate, which results in a $4 increase from the earlier amount that we saw in August. So some of the other changes included in the overall budget. A lot of these slides the city council has seen, but mainly for the public information. In the upcoming budget, there is a change in the Emerald Ash Borer tree replacement program, tree removal program. We just now there is a new fund that is included in the budget, special revenue fund for opioid settlement funds and tracking of those activities, along with a change in the Public Works Administration and the Natural Resources budgets have now been separated and are being budgeted separately. The Emerald Ash Borer program, existing practice is to remove and replace diseased boulevard trees as funding is available either through levy or grants. Currently, we're spending about $1,600 to $1,900 a tree, and currently there are 1,050 boulevard and park disease trees that need to be removed. This coming to your budget proposes a use of one-time money from the Future Capital Projects Fund. $550,000 in 2024 and $650,000 in 2025, just to get start addressing that in a much more rapid pace than we've been able to do. And frankly, it's because the disease is spreading much more rapidly. We're estimating the removal costs at $1,200 to $1,500. And one change in the practice, I guess, would be the City Council would be asked to create a program where the tree would be removed, and instead of the city replacing the tree and kind of caring for that tree in the immediate months leading after the tree is planted, instead provide a rebate to the property owner if they plant a tree that is not in the public right-of-way, not in the boulevard. So what that will do is that the property owner will become a stakeholder in that tree, and hopefully that tree would be better cared for. I mentioned the opioid settlement fund. The city of Apple Valley will receive $1,119,000 over the next 18 years. And one of the requirements is a separate fund. The identified uses so far is funding of a partial funding of the Drug Task Force agent and investigation enforcement of opioid-related events. In addition to some funding for the Community Impact Unit, which would connect community members to the appropriate resources for crisis and also officers for crisis incident follow-up. I mentioned the Public Works and Natural Resources budgets being split. We want to mention that the budget has been restated, so the numbers are comparable to the actuals and restated budget amounts for the prior years. The start of the process every year, we start with property valuations. Overall, property values for the coming year are increasing 5%. We can see that residential property is going up 3.75%. This is a reversal or a moderation, extreme moderation from what we were experiencing last year at double-digit increases in the residential. Commercial and industrial and personal property are increasing 11.75% for the coming year. The other large increase here is in the apartment property classification, 9.56%. Overall, it results in an increase of 5% in property valuations. When there is a large increase in one property valuation class due to appreciation, it will shift the burden onto that class from other classes. So for example, commercial this year, for the coming year, is going up at 11.75% versus 3.75% for residential. This will shift some of the property tax burden to the commercial industrial class. And this reverses last year's tax impact when it was just the opposite, where the residential was going up at a much higher rate. Apartments that experience the 9.5% increase overall will also experience part of that shift back to away from the residential property class onto the multifamily apartments. We look at also the overall preliminary tax capacity. This actually is the tax base. We convert values into tax capacity, and that is really what is considered the tax base. And we can see that residential, new construction for residential is 0.37 of 1%. Commercial industrial is up a little bit more at 2.37, and apartments at just under 5% of additional new construction tax capacity. And then if we look at appreciation, I mentioned earlier the appreciation of the commercial industrial class higher than the other property classes at 9.4%, compared with residential at 3.59%. We look at them together, the tax capacity will be increasing 5.77%, and we can see here that it really is shifting in tax base wise shifting to the commercial, industrial, and apartment property classes. The median value home is increasing 2.8% for the coming year for taxes payable 2024 up to $362,300. One of the things we're here tonight to do is to talk about the budget as well as the tax base and levy. Overall, all funds that we budget total $98,412,000. And the city is a service provider, so a good chunk of over one third of the total budget is in personal services, wages and benefits as such. And this, because it's all funds, does include the liquor store operations. So for example, you'll see items for resale. Most of that is related to the purchase of items for resale at the liquor stores. We do have capital outlay and depreciation, $27 million, which is frankly the amount being reinvested in capital in the city's assets. We also have debt service the coming year of $1.5 million, and then we have transfers and administrative fees between the funds of $9.2 million. We look at the expenses based on the fund or the fund type. The general fund is the biggest operating fund in our budget at 44%, $43,169,000. Enterprise funds, water, sewer, stormwater utility, liquor store operation make up the other 40%, makes up 40% or $39.2 million. Another large other fund is the road fund at $9.4 million. And then all the other funds, cable TV and other special revenue funds make up $8.5 million or approximately 9% of the total budget. We look at the funding sources of the total, all budgets. We can see user and franchise fees. Again, this is the enterprise funds, $36 million, approximately 40% of the total budget. And then another big chunk of that is property taxes, which is one of the topics for this evening. $32,575,000 of property taxes being levied for the operating budget, or approximately 36%. And again, I mentioned property tax levy is why we're here this evening, so that's that share of the pie, which the predominant share of that tax levy goes to the general fund, which makes up 75% of the general fund's operating budget is provided for by property taxes, 75.5%. And then it's all the other, whether it's licenses and permits, which include building permits, business licenses, we have franchise taxes, intergovernmental revenue, park and rec charges at 3.5%. So again, I mentioned the city is a service provider. In the general fund, 64% of the budget is just in wages and benefits as providing services. $27,664,000 for the coming year. Capital outlay, again, this is just the capital outlay within the general fund, $1,781,000. We do have transfers into the road improvement fund. This is the levy supported portion of the street and infrastructure replacement program, which is other than the utility portion, which the utilities cover their own direct expenses of the street and infrastructure replacement program. And then we also have transfers to the, I'll call it the municipal building funds. There's 3 of them totaling $545,000 for the coming year. Brings us to the property tax levy, which is increasing 8.44%, in total $34,744,000 for the coming year, 2024, an increase of $2,705,000. The predominant share of that goes to the general fund at $2,061,000 is the increase in the levy component for the general fund. The street maintenance, I mentioned the $4,360,000 going to fund the street and infrastructure program. And then the municipal building fund or facilities funds increasing $164,000 for the coming year, leaving the remainder approximately $90,000 for increase in debt service for the coming year. levy-supported debt service. Levy increase, 2.7 million that we just saw. What's driving that? The increase in the road fund, again, facilities funds, the debt service, and I would categorize all of that as capital outlay related. If it's not directly expended on capital outlay, it's for the debt service related to capital outlay. And the other items, we have a general election next year, which will result in an increase of approximately 147,000. Got inflationary impacts throughout the general fund, which includes wages, benefits, and everything, 1,315,000. There are a few, about two full-time positions that are added in the budget for the coming year, of which 53,000 is supported by the property tax levy. And then we just pointed out at the city council informal that the cable franchise fees have been declining, and where the levy will be going up to reflect that shortfall. We look at the tax impacts to the median value home. Again, that median value home is $362,300. We apply a market value, homestead market value exclusion program, and this home will receive a reduction to the property value, estimated property value, to arrive at a taxable market value. It's that taxable market value times the state classification rate for homesteaded properties of 1%, which gives us the tax capacity. Earlier, I mentioned tax capacity equates to the tax base. So you do this calculation for every parcel in town, add up the tax capacity for each of the parcels, and that gives you the total tax capacity or the tax base. We divide the total levy by the tax base. Total tax capacity gives us a tax extension rate of 36.67. That times the taxable market value gives us the gross taxes payable, $1,312. Plus, in addition to that, there is still a parks referendum for park bonds issued back in 2007, 8, and 2012. Giving a total property tax paid for just the city portion of the taxes for the coming year of $1,362, which when we compare that to the prior year is an increase of $89 or 6.96% for 2024. And again, this is on the median value home valued at $362,300 that experienced a 2.81% increase in estimated market value. One of the things we do each year is we compare a number of factors, but one of them is how is our levy increase compared to other communities, both similar sized in the metro area, and we can see that we're at 8.4%. There's 4 in this survey of folks that have responded to my survey anyway, that are higher, and there's a story behind every one of these levy increases, but we can see that on the low end is Eden Prairie at 5.6%. These numbers across the board are higher. If we pulled out last year's survey, these numbers are significantly higher than previous levy increases that we've been seeing, experiencing just like the city of Apple Valley is experiencing. We also compare, and this again is preliminary, taxes on the median value home in, again, some of these comparable cities. What this chart shows us, the percentage in the bar is the tax capacity rate, preliminary tax capacity rate. The dollar amount in the blue bar is the median value home in each one of those communities. And we extend that out, and we can see that of these cities that replied to my survey, their preliminary estimated taxes for the city portion of taxes in Edina, for example, is $2,134. Minnetonka, $1,715, and Apple Valley is at $1,362. So we're in the middle of the pack again, which is usually where we are when we do this comparison. So, and again, we point out that the city of Apple Valley's property tax levy includes support of the road and infrastructure replacement activities that other communities, predominantly the communities are levying special assessments anywhere from 20% at one time up to 100%. Even that city is backing down on that. So at least over time, they'll be backing down on that total assessment. Another comparison is and we see this when we did the audit presentation last month, but according to the state auditor, this is total expenditures per capita of governmental expenditures, governmental fund type expenditures by each community, and this is the MLC cities. And again, the most recent data available for these cities is 2021. Apple Valley had total expenditures per capita of $768, and they are the lowest of this comparison. And the highest is St. Louis Park at $1,628 per capita. And again, this is governmental fund expenditures, which would include not just the general fund, capital projects, and debt service. All of that works into this number. We do that same comparison of just the, let's say, the larger Dakota County cities, and we are, of the 11, we are the lowest in that. We do expect that as the CMF project, the fire station, police operations garage, as those projects get built, for example, in 23, those numbers will go up because we are expending to build those facilities. Some of the, I'll call it maybe the items of note or maybe the items of interest for the public. Preliminary levy, again, to recap, increasing 8.44%. Median value home is going up 2.81%. The tax impact on that median value home is going up 6.96%, $88.68 a year, or $7.38 a month, up to, again, $1,362 for the coming year. Does continue the City Council's goal to not specially assess for the infrastructure maintenance program. And again, there's an increased transfer to the Road Improvement Fund, increase up to $4,360,000, which is 9.8% of that portion of the levy support. I mentioned some new positions. There is a new maintenance trainee program. It'll be up to a 2-year program, and this position would rotate between the parks maintenance, water and sewer utility functions, kind of a training program. There is also a police sergeant new position included in the budget, and that is funded with the state public safety aid that the city will be receiving. And then there's 3 intern positions throughout the city in the IT, city fleet mechanic, as well as recreation. The utility rates for the coming year, water and sewer will be going up 5%. The stormwater rate is going up 15%, and this is reflective of the increased needs in the stormwater related infrastructure needs. And streetlight piece of that going up 10%. That's a small portion of the bill, but all total, the quarterly bill, and again, this is a typical user over, this would be basically winter consumption, going up $12.44 a quarter, or $4.14 a month, or approximately 6.7% per quarter. The budget timeline remaining, we have, again, the action this evening, we're seeking a motion setting a budget meeting for December 14th. The county would then use that to prepare their parcel-specific notices, which they send out the 2nd or 3rd weeks of November, notifying everybody of that, the meeting to discuss the budget, which would be December 14th at 7 p.m. At that time, the City Council would be asked to consider adopting a final budget and final property tax levy for payable 2024 at the December 14th meeting. If the City Council cannot complete that evening, the backup date would be another regularly scheduled meeting on December 28th, which is the deadline for filing at the state. So that is the last available date we would have. So with that, asking consider you to consider adopting a resolution adopting the 2024 proposed budget property tax levy, as well as a motion to setting December 14th as the Truth and Taxation meeting at 7 p.m.
Thanks, Ron. And as you said, this sets the highest we can levy, but we still have opportunity to continue to talk about and reduce from this level. So, questions for Ron from council?
It's not the first time we've seen it.
It is not. It is not the first time we've seen it. As everybody's digested it more, I want to make sure I had time to answer questions. So if there are no questions from Ron, we can take the two actions requested. The first one is to adopt a resolution approving the proposed 2024 city budget and levy.
So move.
Second.
Little motion from Councilmember Goodwin, a second from Councilmember Bergman. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That carries, and the second action is to set a date for the public budget meeting on December 14, 2023 at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Grindall, a second from Councilmember Melander. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That carries as well. Ron, thank you. There's a ton of work from you, staff, and truly all the staff to put this together, so the work's appreciated. We'll move on to item 5B, which is Eagle Point Apple Valley Second Edition. And I think Tim's going to walk us through this item tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Happy to present for you, for your consideration tonight, the Eagle Point Apple Valley Second Edition. This is a two-part request subdivision of a preliminary plat of Eagle Point Apple Valley Second, also authorizing for site plan review and building permit authorization for that phase 2 of Eagle Point Edition, which we'll get into very quickly here. I hope most of you are aware of the site. It's over at the northwest corner of 140th and Garden View. This was the former Apple Valley Gardens, golf course. The property is currently zoned LDF. This is a relatively new zoning classification, low-density flex residential. It provides for an allowance of single-family, multifamily up to 3 to 8 units per acre. The Eagle Point Valley plat, as shown up on this screen, was originally approved with 16 villas and 33 townhomes. And what you're seeing in the blue outline is that Outlot A that was covered under that final plat for Eagle Valley, which is subject to that phase 2 that we're going to talk to very quickly tonight. So phase 2 consists of about 10.3 acres. Again, this just will be the final phase or second phase of this original development. The requested preliminary plat back in 2021, some of you may have been on the council or planning commission at the time. It did show that there was no units being proposed at I'm going to call it the south end of the cul-de-sac of this phase 2. Under the requested plat of 2023, the developer did put those back in, which we're going to get into a little bit more information later in. So the revised preliminary plat shows now 31 total lots. So there will be 11 lots individually for the villa-style residences, 19 for the attached townhome styles, and 1 lot, basically shown in that light or lime green, is a common or open space. So it is being created as its own separate lot of number 31. The site plan, again, just shows the layout along that cul-de-sac section. The bright canary yellow are the villas. The lighter yellow are the attached townhome units itself. You'll note on just to the right of that circled area is where the 3 units are being proposed by the developer, along with that trail connection coming off the bulb of the cul-de-sac. The grading drainage plan, pretty unique, nothing unique here. It just, all the grades will be established around the home itself. Retaining walls also establishes grades for the new areas around the ponds. Utilities, all of course being connected. All of these will have services provided. All those are being installed or have been installed at this time. Landscape plan, very heady plan here. We're showing a lot of new trees and landscaping as part of the overall development, but also some foundation planning plans which will come with every new unit. The elevations, very typical for a villa. These are the single level villas, along with the townhomes. Again, 2-car garages, 2-story units, very spacious. On August 2nd, 2023, this item was presented to the Planning Commission for a public hearing. There were a number of concerns. Some of you may have heard about these, that there was a request that a concern was raised by some of the residents that this wasn't what they was previously approved, is the developer trying to mislead the city and the neighbors. Also, some concerns raised on parking. And although the requested additional 3-unit building maintains a low density, the neighbors still preferred an open space on that area. So what was established later on during discussions at a future meeting was back on June 2nd of 2021, the developer actually did show a 4-unit building here on that circled site where the 3 units go in today. That was in our sketch plan. Later on, the public hearing modified that again to the 4-unit townhome. But when it got to PC recommendation, it was removed on account of the developer and the city we still are doing a cooperative joint project for the stormwater management of this area and for this site. The final layout or the final determination of those stormwaters were undetermined. The developer wanted to forge ahead with their phase 1, and without knowing exactly how much land or space was needed for those ponds in this area, they took it out with the assumption that this area would be used for ponding. So there again, it was approved on August 12th, 2021 without it. However, the developer, once they realized that that area could be redeveloped or used for additional units, instead of 4, they decided to put in 3. Under the LDF, with the 3 to 8 units per acre, as noted in the report, the overall density established at 4 units an acre under the old plan, upped it to just slightly over 4.2 units an acre, which is still well within the 3 to 8 unit range. And also the developer did provide for 15 visitor parking spaces. On August 16th, again, this item was presented back to the Planning Commission for review. They did unanimously propose the following 2 separate recommendations to approve the subdivision and the site and building plans. For you tonight, we are asking for approval of the subdivision and preliminary plat of Eagle Valley 2nd, also adopting those resolutions approving the site and building plan, building permit authorization, subject to conditions. Those are noted in your packet under those draft resolutions. If you have any questions on them, staff will be able to hopefully answer those. The developer is also here to answer any questions if you have anything on the project. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thanks, Tim. Questions from council? Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I was on the planning commission for a good share of this item, and there was a lot of contention, a lot of neighborhood input, a lot of. It was a bearcat. It was. I used to talk about torches and pitchforks. You know, there were a lot of angry neighbors, and I lived in that neighborhood myself for a long time, and it's a tough site with a high water table. It appeared to me, any rain and there was standing water all over that golf course, and I got to see that every time it rained. So it's a tough deal, and I know this has been a horrendously expensive piece to develop, and it's okay now to talk about costs and stuff, but man, it's just scary what's had to have been done to do this. I'm always a little leery about shoehorning, more into 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag kind of thing. Looks like planning thought it was okay, or planning commission, but it's a tough fit, and I don't know what happens to all that stormwater, the rainfall with all that impervious surface, but I think it's going to be a tough deal over there with standing water, even with the ponds.
Councilmember Goodwin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go back a little further than Councilmember Melander. I remember when this first came in. Do you remember what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Developer wanted 4, 5-story apartment buildings.
Yep.
I think we did a pretty good job. And let's keep in mind too, these are high-valued homes. We're not building low-valued homes here. These are high-valued homes. And let's remember too, the last 3 they put back in, that's as far away from the neighborhood as you can get. And the only reason they pulled them out is they thought it was gonna be a pond, and it isn't. So, I still remember the original ones, and I remember the neighborhood just coming unglued looking at 4-story apartment buildings. So I think we did a pretty good job compromising everything and getting a pretty darn good development for the city.
Thanks, Tom. Councilmember Bergman.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. To the developer and to the city, and also, this originally, as Councilmember Goodwin mentioned, that apartments and everything else was there. When it first came out, it was gonna be 8 units per acre. When it finally got approved, or what we're looking at tonight, because there was some concerns on this second edition, they didn't know for sure if these 3 units could go in. And so having dialogue with staff, and you look at this project right now and you go, wow, there's a golf course there. And then you look at it with no development going on, but yet the ponding is in there. And Brandon, I think, has always done an excellent job in getting rid of stormwater. And you look at that and go, wow, this is gonna be kind of unique and kind of cool, and on a short property with all the limitations it has. So I got to see a little bit, had some question when the planning commission looked at it and went, uh-oh, on this one project. What I found really interesting in going in to talk to a staff member was they go, John, it was 8 units when it first came in, 8 units per acre. And then I said, so what's the difference now and what is their concern? And their concern was that building, and as Councilmember Goodwin talked about, that's the farthest away on a corner, on the corner of 2 intersections. But what it did was, it went from, before this is coming for us tonight, basically it was 4.04 units per acre when it originally started at 8 units per acre. So you got a lot of green space for a lot of different reasons. And then with this addition of these 3 townhouses, and I thought it was gonna go up big time, and Councilmember Melander and I were on the planning commission. You kind of go, okay, let me get my bearings straight back for the planning commission, and it only went up from 4.0 to 4.2. And with that being said and looked at, it's still a tremendous project. There's still a lot of green space for the difficulties of it, and I think all parties involved did a wonderful job on a very restricted piece of property.
Councilmember Goodwin, did you have something else?
Something I forgot to mention, another thing I think we did for the neighborhood, when I say the neighborhood, the folks north. Now, they used to have a fairway behind them. Now they have a pond. Now, we could have put that pond someplace else. But we did what we could do to help the neighborhood out, and we put a pond. So now the folks that used to look at the tee and the fairway are now looking at a pond. And I think we did quite a good job of accommodating the neighborhood on that.
All right, if there's no other questions or comments, we will go ahead and take a motion to adopt a resolution approving the subdivision by preliminary plat.
So move.
Second?
Motion from Councilmember Goodwin, and a second from Councilmember Bergman. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item is 5B2, which is to adopt a resolution approving the site plan building permit for construction of 30 villa and townhome units.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Bergman, second from Councilmember Goodwin. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 And opposed? That item carries. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here as well. With that, we'll move on to staff and council communications. And Tom, I know we've got a couple items.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do have 2 tonight. We'd like our Assistant City Administrator, Charles Garrod, to give us an update on the upcoming Fall Cleanup Day. And Park and Rec Director Eric Carlson has a few updates as well.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members. It's that time of year again where we have our fall cleanup day coming up. That'll be a week from Saturday, so a week and a half out on September the 23rd, between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. at the Aquatic Center parking lot. It's an opportunity for residents to dispose of non-hazardous materials that are difficult to get rid of, like appliances, tires, scrap metal, furnishings, remodeling debris, for fees, for a reasonable fee. We also have free paper shredding available on that day. We do not accept hazardous items like electronics, paint, or cleaners and pesticides, fluorescent bulbs, batteries, that sort of thing, or yard waste. 3 things that we want people to know this year. One is that in the past we have had our event at the same time as Dakota County holds a hazardous waste cleanup at Burnsville. They're going to be opening up a second recycling zone in Lakeville very shortly, so they're discontinuing that practice. So we are separating those events at this point because they won't be doing it in the future. So there's only going to be the Apple Valley event that day. People can take their hazardous waste to the recycling zone in Egan at this time, and we're happy to provide them information on that. Second thing is the longest line of the day is at 8 a.m. So we would encourage people to not feel the need to come out at 7:30 because there are people who will, but you'll sit in line for a half hour waiting for us to open, and that will be the longest line of the day that we have. So people can feel free to sleep in a little bit and come in other times in the morning, and it will be faster for them. And the third thing, with the shredding, we're allotted 1 truck, and that truck will leave when it's full. And every year we've held this so far, we have made it right until 1, but it has been full at 1. So if you have shredding, you may want to consider coming before the last minute, because if that truck is full at 5 to 1, the truck's probably going to leave because they won't be able to take any more. So those are my 3 tips for residents, and they can certainly feel free to give us a call if they have any other questions.
Great, thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
Ruth, do you have something real quick?
I would just like to point out that we have Zubair Muhammad here tonight, who is the Apple Valley Boys State Representative, and he was elected Lieutenant Governor from the group. And so welcome.
Yes. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Do you want to just step
Yeah.
forward so that
Yeah.
anybody at home can't hear you if you're back there? So come on forward. So
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to just sit in and listen to the affairs of the Apple Valley City Council, and to learn more about local government and to do my part as an upcoming citizen of Apple Valley.
Thank you. So you're a senior at Apple Valley High School, correct? Yep.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome back anytime as well. It's great to have you. Eric, you've got some updates as well.
Mr. Mayor, three quick things. One, I think the community knows that we partner with the Apple Valley Arts Foundation to do a Friday night concert series at Kelly Park. That's very popular in the summer. There was 2 events that were canceled this year because of poor weather. And the last time that we'll have music in Kelly Park this year will be Sunday and if I use my slides, it'll be Sunday from 2 to 4, and the band will be 5-speed. So there's not a Viking game conflict on Sunday. They're playing right now. Come to the concert on Sunday between 2 and 4 at Kelly Park. Second one we have is just a reminder about the Parks referendum. I know that the referendum brochure that was mailed out started hitting homes because I got phone calls and email questions from folks today. So I know it started hitting homes. I don't know if everyone received it, but please look for that in the mail. And starting next week, we'll have a series of open houses, inviting people to ask questions about it, learn more about it. There'll be some virtual options, and there'll be some in-person options. This information's in the brochure. It's on our website. We encourage people to ask questions so they know what they're doing when they go to the polls and vote. And then last but not least, we do have the Family Fun Fest this Saturday at the Apple Valley Sports Arena, which is connected to the Apple Valley High School. It's from 4 to 8 p.m. There'll be a bounce house, food, games, fun. It's a free event, and we want to thank all of our youth athletic associations for their participation to make that event happen. So those are the 3 things that I wanted to update the council and the community about.
Great. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Council, any other items? I usually ask if you have any other items. I did not do that. I think that's all we had. So with that, we will move on to the calendar of upcoming events. Our next regular city council meeting is Thursday, September 28th at 7 p.m. Do we have a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
Motion from Councilmember Grandal, second from Councilmember Bergman. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That item carries, and the last item is to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion from Councilmember Grandal, second from Councilmember Melander. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.